Sherlonya, and welcome to AADL TV. If you don't want to miss any of the events that the library is putting on during this time, go ahead and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if it turns out that you like this video, go ahead and hit like. That will help other people get to see it. I recently watched season 2 of Ugly Delicious, and I'm about to tell you about it with a cake. So I am a mediocre cake decorator. I do best with a basic birthday cake setup, like give me some frosting and some sprinkles and some candles, and I'm all set. Cupcakes, I can do something with cupcakes. But with a cake, things get a little dicey. And this cake is tall, and it leans. And I knew that this cake needed some supports inside of them, but that's just not something that I keep on hand. And I respect you guys enough not to try to pass that off as a play on Ugly Delicious. The teal color on this cake is a reference to the promotional material. And we're not done decorating this cake. I decided that I didn't want to make you watch me frost the cake because 1, it embarrasses me, and 2, it will bore you. But what we're going to do is make this cake a little bit uglier. So what I have here to make this cake just fit that Ugly Delicious theme a little bit more is some crushed cereal. It's actually my favorite cereal, Captain Crunch. But Captain Crunch is not pretty when you crush it up. And so I feel like that's a perfect nod to the title of the TV series. So let's just get that done. I'm making a mess on the table, but I will clean that up later. Now let's dig in. Ugly Delicious Season 2 consists of 4 episodes. Kids Menu, Don't Call It Curry, Steak, and As the Meat Turns. This cake, this very tall cake, consists of 4 layers. Each layer represents 1 episode of the show. So let's cut the cake. Episode 1 was called Kids Menu. Episode 1 was particularly moving to me. David Chang was preparing to become a dad for the first time. His son Hugo was born in March of 2019. So Hugo's birth and Chang's related Instagram posts happened during the early part of my pregnancy. In this episode, Chang was asking for advice from other chefs about how to do both things, like how to be a good dad while also doing this very demanding job of being a chef. So layer 1 of this cake is the layer that represents episode 1. And so what I decided to do was do a vanilla cake, since vanilla is one of those flavors that even the pickiest of young people usually will go for. And then there's also some custard in it because 1, I wanted to make it interesting, and 2, it's a reference to something that happened in the episode. During one of the scenes in the episode, David Chang was there with his wife Grace, and both of their mothers were all sort of talking about the baby, and David's mother made this custard that was egg-based and a good food for babies. And so this is a nod to that. That custard was savory. This one obviously is not. And so that's what we have for episode 1. Episode 2 is called Don't Call It Curry, and that was an exploration of Indian food. In that episode, David Chang had Aziz Ansari and Padma Lakshmi as well on the episode, and he also took a trip to Mumbai. One of the main takeaways from that episode is that Indian food is hugely diverse, as you would expect from a very populous place. And the episode is called Don't Call It Curry because a lot of times when non-Indian people are thinking about Indian food, we think generically about curry. I stayed away from all of that in layer 2 of the cake. What I didn't want to do was do a piece of cake that reduced diverse cuisine into one thing. So I took a cop-out and focused on a scene in the episode where David Chang and Aziz Ansari went to a market with a food writer named Vikram Doctor, and David Chang asked him about bananas. We see the scene that is just full of fruits and vegetables, but they focus on the bananas. And Vikram Doctor said that India has like many varieties of bananas. And then we're looking at bananas that look like the ones that we would see in the grocery store. You know, the regular PLU number 4011 for those of you who self-check. The guy was like, yeah, these are bananas that are made for the American market and they're crap. So I decided to make a banana flavored cake for layer 2. Just to remind us that food comes with a point of view, right? Like, I like my crap bananas. Episode 3 is called Steak. No steak was harmed in the making of this cake. This episode explores steak from a variety of vantage points. They went to a cattle ranch. They went to a bunch of fancy restaurants, fancy steak restaurants. They went to a different restaurant that was not fancy, but it represented a one place where folks could go and feel comfortable ordering steak, where they might not have felt comfortable at like a traditional steakhouse. And then they also went to Outback Steakhouse. They sort of explored what makes steak taste good, and also what steak symbolizes, and even as much as how you take your steak or how you eat your steak can represent you. Like, it make people have certain opinions about you, or even you have certain opinions about yourself. All right, so when I was thinking about steak and how to represent steak in cake form, I thought about how we cook it. We provide heat to the steak in most cases to make it palatable for us. And in the episode itself, we saw a lot of fire, or at least I felt like we saw a lot of fire. So I took this idea of fire and decided that I wanted this layer of the cake to be smoky. And that's when I decided to use LAPSONG SOUCHONG tea, which is a smoked black tea, to get the smoky flavor in layer 3 to go after that steak episode. Episode 4 is called As the Meat Turns. This episode had a lot going on in it, which is no surprise if you follow David Chang's work at all. He is often playing with a number of ideas through his food. You can hear that in his podcast. You can hear, he wrote a column for GQ a while ago. You could sort of see that there. In fact, if you're interested in an offbeat look at David Chang, you might check out AADL's podcast, Body of Work. And there's an episode where we discuss David Chang. But back to episode 4. David Chang became interested in cooking meat on a spit. In fact, in one of his restaurants, he decided to do Korean food, but using this particular technology to cook it, sort of mashing these two different food heritages or food points of view together. In this episode, out of his interest in cooking meat on a spit, he sort of got sent all over the place, or he visited everywhere. Not everywhere, but he visited many places, including Beirut and including Istanbul. And so all of that is me trying to avoid using the term Middle East or even Mediterranean, because that nomenclature was actually challenged in this episode by Baker Reem Asil, who, when thinking about the term Middle East, kind of asked east of where. So when I was thinking about that episode and how I wanted to do that as a cake, I also was thinking about the other layers of cake that we have here, because I don't want this cake to be gross just because it's exploration of a television show. I want the flavors to work together. And so with the banana and the vanilla custard and the smoky flavors, honey seems like a good choice. And honey is also an ingredient that you might think about when you're thinking about some of the desserts you might see if you partake in Middle Eastern or Mediterranean food. So those are our layers. And now I think it's time to taste the cake, because I have not done that, and this cake could be totally gross, and let's hope that it's not. And actually, I gotta go get a helper to taste the cake as well, because why would you want me to be the judge of my own cake? All right, I called my older son up from whatever he was doing so that he can try this cake. So Alex, there are 4 layers of cake here, and they all have different flavors, and I want you to just try the cake and see if you like it at all.
What do you mean just try the cake?
Just try it. Like, every layer has a different flavor to it. So, like, for me, I'm just gonna...
safe? I mean...
I think it's safe.
Okay. I'll just try the different layers of the cake. Just use this fork. So what's the blue? Because I'm not quite sure about this different color.
The blue is just...
shade of blue in paint.
The blue is just because when you look at Ugly Delicious, when you look it up, and you, some of the material, promotional material, has a blue background.
Okay. Is there banana in here?
Yes, there is.
Okay, all right. I was scared you were going to say no. That would be embarrassing. Okay.
What do you think? Is it a good cake?
Well, it's definitely unique.
Unique how?
In a good way. Don't be
I forgot to say that there's actually a layer of sliced bananas in here.
Phew. Thought you were gonna say mushrooms. I was about to have to leave, but no, I like it. It's a nice. I was expecting something tangy, but I like.
Did you get any of the Captain Crunch?
No, I did not. Or the blue yet, because I'm still not quite sure about it. But did you try it first? And what
I like
did you
it.
think?
Do you think these flavors work together?
Honestly, or do you want to hear what you want?
Honestly.
Yes, they do. They do.
Do I want to hear what I want to hear? Would you eat? Are you gonna eat another slice of this cake? Like, this is the one that I made you eat. Do you think you'll eat more of it?
I might have a little bit more.
All right. Well, thank you for your service.
All right. Can I just take this with me?
It's very tall, and it's not very well supported, so you might want to be careful with that.
Okay.
Well, here we are, 10-15 minutes later, because my son decided to sit there and slowly enjoy his entire piece of cake. But I'll call that piece of cake, I'll call the cake a success. One thing that I find true in David Chang's work is that even though he sort of goes all over the place in his exploration of what he's exploring, he always brings it back home. So I wanted this cake to do that as well. And so when we look at all of the flavors in the cake, I sort of also see this as a breakfast themed cake, because bananas You know, I grew up putting bananas in cereal, so that's sort of a breakfast thing. Tea is a breakfast thing. Honey is a breakfast thing, and eggs. So like the custard in there is like a breakfast thing. And then I've got the Captain Crunch crumbs over the top of it. So hopefully I've successfully pulled it all together, just like I think Dave Chang would. And there we have it, our ugly delicious cake. Thanks for watching.